Got it. Hey. Hello, world schoolers. Hello, hello, hello. It's been so long since Miro and I, or I alone, have come to you live. And we are excited to be here. Oh, there you are. Okay. I just wanted to bring up the you live. And we are excited. Well, there you go. A little bit of a delay, but I just wanted to see if it was showing up. And I want to just give it a moment so people can start to join us. So, welcome everybody. I'm Lainey. This is Miro. We've had quite a few new people join us in our wonderful We Are World Schoolers community. Miro and I both are your hosts. We are mother and son, believe it or not. And for those of you that don't know our story, I'll just give you a super brief introduction. Actually, why not? Since I've just been yakking, Miro, why don't you just give them like the really short version of who
the
we are and what we've done?
just the cliff notes.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, we kind of fell into world schooling accidentally some 15 years ago, just about at this point. And yeah, we ended up taking off on our own world schooling journey in late 2008, 2000. Well, that was actually 2009. It was following 2008. And had no idea that world schooling was a thing. We didn't know about unschooling. We knew about nothing. And so it happened totally organically, accidentally, as I always like to say. We had made plans to leave the States and to travel for 1 year. We were going to do a round the world 1 year trip. The idea was to go from California all the way down to Argentina in that time. And yeah, we kind of just like we fell in love with living in that way. And we ended up reconfiguring our entire lives around that. And along the way, discovering unschooling, discovering world schooling, discovering, experiential learning, like all of these different things. And yeah, I guess we just never looked back. So I'm no longer a kid. I grew up doing that. I was 9, 10 when we left. And now I will be in just a few months, I'll be 25. So yeah, I mean, we've been
Blows
at it for quite some time.
away. So, Miro and we started off as single parent travel, and I know many of you in our community talk about how can you possibly do this as a single parent. And I know also that many of you in our community talk about how can we do this with a single kid, at least if you've got more than one kid, they could keep each other entertained while you're traveling. So we have expertise in those two areas as well as um, choosing world schooling as a lifestyle. As Miro said, I don't know if you heard that. He was 9, just turning 10 when we left the States. And we haven't been home yet. I mean, to live. We have never gone back to live. And in fact, we created a base. It's been since the pandemic, since 2020, we decided that, okay, we actually ended up in Mexico hosting a world schooling summit when the world shut down and we just never left. So now our lifestyle has changed as Miro is sort of aged out as, parent child travel. But we are here to really support this beautiful community. And we decided that we wanted to support you guys in a very intense way. We love how our world schooling community has grown. We are seeing pop-ups everywhere. We are seeing communities started. We are seeing classes and workshops and all of these really wonderful services that come from within our community to serve the community. But one of the things that we don't see is the thing that Miro and I specialize. So just as you understand that we've got the background, we've got the experience to talk about these things, we're going to talk to you in an area where people are really not talking about. So you want to talk about that, Miro, or should I just
I mean, yeah, I think it's something that's so important. It's so often goes overlooked. I mean, if you don't have this one key component, I mean, the rest of your world schooling journey can pretty easily fall apart. And what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about a little something called family culture. We're talking about the way that you interact and deal with all of the external from the internal first, and how you as a family relate to one another, and how you rely on one another to, yeah, deal with all of the things that the world can throw at you, right? um you guys have probably heard people say, like, oh, the best way to get to know somebody in a relationship is to travel with them, right? This is no less true than traveling with when traveling with family. I mean, this is so important. And yeah, if you don't focus on your interpersonal relationships while you're out in the world, man, it can get dicey real quick. So,
Yeah, and this is coming from my adult son now. So I talk about something quite often, and in fact, I'm in the middle of writing my second book on this particular topic, and it is called partnership parenting. And this is a really amazing companion to world schooling. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a workshop. So we're here really today to talk to you about a workshop that we have coming up. Now, I know many world schooling organizations are offering workshops that are on how to plan your world schooling journey. I've seen books on this topic. I've seen all sorts of different organization around this,
mhm.
and it tends to be very, very pragmatic, and we need that. You
it's
guys need
that's
that
you it's
information.
very useful too. I mean, like, we're not trying to undersell or to,
Yeah.
like that stuff. You also need that for sure. Um,
Yeah.
but if you don't have a base, an interpersonal relationship base, you might not even get to the point where you'll need that stuff. So,
Exactly. So we're not talking about that. And this is a wonderful companion to all of those world schooling workshops and classes and communities and so forth. So we're absolutely not focusing on the pragmatic, do this step first, do this step second, and get your bank account this way and move that way. We're not doing that, but what we are talking about are some important topics which really are important specific to world schoolers, and those are trip planning and logistics. And again, we're not talking about the pragmatic side. We're talking about how to do this within a family culture, whether it's a family of two people or a family of seven people. We're talking about a strategy to create trip planning and logistic planning so that each member of your family has that emotional buy-in, so that they feel that their needs are being met, and so that planning then becomes this team event. And go ahead, Miro. You look like you're chopping at the bit. You feel
no, I
like
mean, that's basically it. I mean, we're not talking about the what, we're talking about the how and the why,
the
right?
how.
Is kind of more how to frame that.
Right. We're talking about learning and education on the road and how to do that in partnership. I'm not going to actually teach you how to homeschool using curriculum. We chose the path of being experiential learners. And most people call that unschooling. We called that world schooling. It was self-directed learning, but we took that approach in the realm of partnership. And I've worked with other families in the past to help them align each of their children's needs so that it became a multi-tiered partnership for everybody. And it really goes hand in hand with world schooling, with this whole thing that we're so invested in. So we're going to be touching on that. But just so you know that we're coming at it from the perspective of natural learning, immersive learning, and experiential learning, with an emphasis on the social aspect of learning. Miro can speak
But
to.
I also think a lot of
Yeah.
the same things that we're going to be talking about can definitely apply to your more, I guess your more traditional homeschoolers, right? There's definitely going to be a lot of value there for pretty much anybody involved. As you world school, there is as you travel, right, and you add that component to your child's education, like there is always going to be an amount of unpredictability. There is always going to be a certain amount of, you know, just unanticipated variables when you're out in the world. And that's why it's so valuable. That's why it's so amazing and so enriching. But at the same time, you need to be able to navigate that in a way that, in such a way that allows grace and some space and distance, within your family. And so we're going to be talking about that a good amount.
And you can apply that to a traditional format of learning as well.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
our experience really comes in the preparation of world schooling and the act of world schooling and living nomadically. We're also going to be talking about one of the things that I feel is really important. I talk a lot about partnership parenting and how that looks for a world schooling family and how that could work for you. We're also going to be delivering, some worksheets and things that you can do in your own planning, a family planning, preparation, and family culture. And one of the things that Miro and I started to do when he was 13, we launched our first company together. And we're going to talk about what that looks like in terms of partnership and balancing work life together. Being a parent and working with a child, you have different skills, different responsibilities, and so forth. But how you can create a business that works. And again, we're not going to be talking about the business planning portion of it. We're
Right.
talking about the partnership between um, human beings in a family unit and what that can look like for you and something to expand your awareness as you're traveling. Again, the biggest part of what we're going to be talking about is getting everybody in your family to buy in, regardless of their age. This is their trip too. And if you are planning a world schooling journey or already world schooling, it's not just for you, the parent. It is for the experiences that you're going to be creating together, the bonds and so forth. And running a
Mhm.
business is a wonderful way, family business is a wonderful way to really experience, hi Carly, really experience world schooling together as a whole.
Well,
Carly can talk
Uh,
about that
not
too.
only that, but I mean, man, there's so much value in being exposed to that at such a young age. I mean, you pick up so many skills that you wouldn't have a reason to develop otherwise, right? You learn about all kinds of different things. So I think it's really important. And then, yeah, like you said, I mean, we'll be talking a lot about more so like the philosophy and how to approach doing something like that rather than like the actual nitty-gritty of the business itself. Um, but we're going to be talking a lot about a little something called meeting your child where they are, right? And kind of like it's going to be this like redefinition of everybody's responsibilities, of everybody's, capabilities, what you can provide, and just how to involve everybody in that process. And so it's just that's a really important way to look at it.
And the two other things that we're going to spend some time focusing on are really creating a strong community base and understanding the social needs of each person in your family. And the overreaching umbrella of all of this is really creating a strong family culture. Guys, we're doing this as a one-time only 3-hour workshop for only 25 US dollars. And why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Well, we really want to step up and serve our community. We have, as of last year, we had hosted 10 Project World School Family Summits, which were the only conference of its type for world schoolers, and we decided to let that rest. but a part of us really feels like, oh my gosh, we still need to connect and we have so much to offer and so much to give. And as I'm seeing all these beautiful world schoolers step into the world schooling world saying, I've got this, part to offer and this part to offer, how to start a business. Here's the nitty-gritty of business. Here's a training about this. Nobody's talking about the psychological partnership of creating a very strong family culture. And this is the area in which I work. If you guys don't know, I wrote this book. Miro wrote the foreword to this book, and it's called Seen, Heard, and Understood: Parenting and Partnering with Teens for Greater Mental Health. So the work that I do primarily is in the mental health realm, creating wonderful connection in families by using tools. And we use tools and use strategies and use techniques which kept us world schooling for 10 plus years. Guys, we left the United States in 2009 and we're still not back there. So you can see Miro and I, we've got a wonderful family bond. We've got a connection that withstood the test of time. We're not traveling together anymore, but we both live in the same town in Mexico. We're constantly doing things together and we have a wonderful connection. And for any family, this is what I wish for you. There is life beyond world schooling when your children grow up, but you've got to create that foundation and that connection. Even if you're not world schooling, but you've got to create that bond, and world schooling creates that wonderful sort of a petri dish for you to observe what is actually happening in your family because you're not distracted by conventional life and insurance and work and dogs and house and responsibilities and all this other stuff. We have, as community, stepped away from that and said, let's go travel. So I want to make sure that you have the foundational tools from a psychological perspective, from a family culture perspective, so that you too can create those bonds in your family that will withstand that test of time. Do you want to say anything else, Miro? I'm like,
I mean, what more is there to say? I mean, yeah, I guess the only thing I would say is just that, like,
yeah,
regardless of what life path you end up taking, I mean, you're never going to regret this effort and the time you spent making and forging a stronger family culture, right? I mean, regardless of what you end up doing in this life with your family, that will always serve you, you know? And
yeah,
like you said, it isn't just valuable to world scholars, though I think it maybe disproportionately is, maybe a little bit more. Maybe it's more necessary. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be something that is incredibly helpful moving forward. And yeah, I mean, you hear, I guess, in kind of traditional family setups, it's very common that you hear like stories of, and you might have experienced this in your own family with your own parents, right? Of, you leave your home, you enter the workforce, you do your own thing, and the family part of your life is kind of over until you start your own family and you lose contact. And you know, it's hard. It's really difficult, that. And so I think that if you create a strong family culture, I mean, yeah, it's this idea of creating community within your family, like a real sense of community. And that far outlasts, you know, the time that, oh, your kids are just there because they're dependent on you. No, it's not just about that. Like it's a
Yeah.
relationship. It is like it's so important.
So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to ask Miro to share his answer that you gave. You were 13 and you were asked this by a person who was interviewing us when we first started traveling. We were only traveling at that point for 3 years. Guys, it's been almost 16 years since we left the States now, which is crazy to think. But the question that you got asked more often than not is, Miro, what about stability? Don't you miss stability being a world schooler and living nomadically? And you always answered what?
Well, I would always say my relationship with you was my stability, right? And
Yeah.
that was something that I was able to um, better understand and reclaim after we had left the States and after we had started on our world schooling journey. And yeah, I mean, kids can go anywhere. You can, we're not nailed down, but the most important thing is the relationship, right? And finding stability and comfort and safety in that means you can be anywhere. You can go absolutely anywhere. So,
Yeah. And we want that for your family as well. We want your children to be able to answer that with confidence, to say, yeah, I am living a stable life, even though we're nomadic, because my stability comes from my family unit. And
mm,
that's really what this workshop is about. Guys, it's only 25 US dollars. We're doing it on, what is the date? It's a 3-hour workshop. We're doing it on February 23rd. If you can't be there live for the Zoom call with Miro and I, we're going to send you the recording. You'll have it forever. We're also preparing downloads. As I mentioned earlier, I wrote this book and I'm really heavy on using tools. And so I'm providing you guys with tools to use in your family as well as part of this workshop. 25 bucks, you can't go wrong. We want to see if this is something that is valuable for the community. We know it is. And it's something that we can offer again and again and again. The value of being there with us is you are really working with a mother and a son who have lived this way. We can answer your questions live. That are specific to your family dynamic, and we can support you the best way that we can. $25, we're going to put the registration link into the comments, and we hope to see you guys there. Let us know if you have any questions. And yeah, that's it. We're out. Bye, everybody.